Who run the world? Who won the world? It's an often asked question, sometimes tongue in cheek. And over time, the answer has become girls. And I'm not going to lie, I struggle with that. What do I mean by that? So there's this oftentimes this competitiveness between men and women. And yes, I'm all for and I believe in empowering women. I also patriarchy is real. Toxic masculinity is real, and that has to be unpacked. But there's somehow, I believe, a kind of underdevelopment of boys. Boys are kind of being, I would say, downgraded. Less is expected of them. In Jamaica, they're in a culture where you mustn't talk too good because that means something. You are athletic competition or athletic organization, like 45% is what you need, the average you need to represent your school. We're dumbing down our boys and disempowering them and underdeveloping them, and then wondering why we have such issues with grown men. And so over the years, there's been these organizations and days and acknowledgements that some people try to rubbish. So there's an International Men's Day, which I believe is November 19th, and I'm all for it. And it's not an anti-woman's day. And the 16th of May is the World Day of the Boy Child. You're watching this on Sunday, well, whenever you watch it, and it's the next day. I think that's important. I think we need to kind of equalize the attention to the valuing of boys and girls and men and women, but also doing that work to create the spaces so we can live harmoniously, so we can drain out some of the toxic behavior, but we can also balance out people feeling valued and seen and heard and respected, but also tackling and challenging some of the issues around patriarchy and misogyny that has caused us issues and problems. When you talk to a lot of boys and young men, it comes out. They feel this sense of being the other, being the dog, being the walkless boy. There's not a lot of validation. And even from parents who sometimes love them and mean well, what they're hearing is, you're walkless and you must go do this, or, you're coming like your walkless dirty pooper and you're not going to amount to anything, or that there's no need to excel and exceed and do well, that you can be basic and be minimal. And I hope we use these opportunities and spaces to have conversations, to talk to boys about respecting themselves and respecting women, to talk to boys and men about rape culture, to talk to boys and men about making women feel valued and safe, to kind of unpack and deconstruct the stuff that is causing us the problems, but not this kind of competitive dismissiveness of who run the world, girls, and men must go sit down and boys are so and so and so. In some schools I've heard the conversations with senior teachers, principals and stuff saying, we need more men in the teaching system to come keep the boys in line. And I'm like, no, how about more men in the system to be mentors, to be nurturers, to show boys what it looks like to be a respectful and professional man, but also to nurture and mentor these boys, as opposed to coming and being the rod of correction, the bully and the aggressor, which is what the boys are used to anyway. Years ago, I was at a basic school, a basic school, and the girls came into the class and she's like, "Come in, girls, no, they're cute, sit down." The boys had not even reached the classroom yet, and they're like, "Wanna come?" Blah, shouting at them. And I couldn't let it pass. I had to say to the teacher, I said, I couldn't help but notice the difference in the way you treated the girls versus the way you treated the boys. I said, kind of banning them rude. I said, but they weren't even over here yet. They weren't making any noise. They weren't doing anything yet, but you were attacking them. And she kind of gave me a look like, but I think part of her was actually beginning to go, you might be right. Yeah, that's important for me, because if we want healthy, respectful boys and men, it can't be because we're bullying them and telling them that they're less than, and it can't be because we're telling the girls that they're superior and better than men. It has to be like a conversation around valuing self, but also valuing each other, while we deconstruct and mash up some of the negativity and the things that are driving some of the problems we're having in the world. So I want to say, happy World Day of the Boy. It's a world/international day of the boy child, celebrating it. And I'm going to be talking about how that may have led me or influenced me to write a children's book, my first children's book that has a boy as the main character. We'll be right back. Greetings and salutations, greetings and salutations, greetings and salutations. How you do? How you do? How you do? Look here, I'm excited. I'm so excited. I'm beside myself. So I wrote a children's book. I wrote a children's book called Djembe, and it has and is taking on a life of its own. And I'm so grateful. People say, so Fabian, why did you decide to write a children's book? Let me tell you. I'm representing my church, the Universal Center of Truth for Better Living, on a committee that's planning a conference that's going to be in the States in August, right? And I'm part of the youth conference planning, and I'm also doing a spoken word workshop. So the pastor who runs the committee, she's really cool, and she gives us things to do like for every meeting. So somebody prays, somebody shares a song, somebody does an activity, or walks through an outline of what they're going to be doing for the conference. So at the end of one meeting, she said, oh, I think Fabian should come and tell us a story next week. So I thought, next meeting, I said, okay, cool. Wait till the last minute, jotted some stuff down on some Post-it. And this idea of this boy, struggling with self-esteem, being bullied, came to mind. So I wrote down the outline, and he had a dream that helped him. So I presented it, shared it in its bare bones state at the meeting. Everybody loved it. And at the end of the meeting, Reverend Jerry says, I think, and I'm putting this in the universe, this is going to be a book at the conference in August. And I was like, you're lucky. Not a book, not key, not the time for that. And really put on the clipboard with the notes on it and didn't pay it any mind. Months passed, things slowed down. I had a little more time, COVID, there was less work to do. And I said, let me look for that clipboard. Where are those notes? I pulled it out, got the notes and fleshed out the story. So no, this is cool. I should add some illustrations. Did that, rushed and put it on first edition. A sister of mine who's a book writer in Jamaica, whoever says somebody drape you up. She draped me up. She said, okay, so this is a really good first start, but it's a first draft. There's more you can do with this. She loved the idea of this boy named after a drum. She said, I think you should, don't print it anymore. I printed a small amount. She said, don't print it anymore. Revisit, extend the story, add more illustrations, do some research, look at what other children's book writers are doing, look at the illustrations, look at how the book is set up. She gave me some great pointers, some notes actually. And I started the process, but it was really quick. And let me tell you why. Djembe himself, the character, was on my left. The ancestors on the right saying, go, Fabian, go. Time is now. Time is now. Write it. I wasn't at the time thinking, it didn't occur to me that May was Child Month in Jamaica. But I was writing and going and linked the illustrator, Ronaldo Marshall, immensely talented Jamaican animator, to do some more illustrations for me. Decided, against my sister's advice, to do the book illustration, the design myself. When she had a follow-up conversation with me, she was like, but I feel like you're rushing. Why are you rushing? Why are you, going forward? Give it some more time to gel, take your time. And I said, I can't fully articulate to you why I have this drive, this urge, but I can tell you that Djembe is saying, write me, write me, write me. So I did that, went through the process, got more and more excited by the new illustrations that were coming, and got into the story, had children read it, did some research. And now I have this book. It's called Djembe. It's about a boy who's being bullied by his brother and also bullied at school. He doesn't feel loved. He doesn't feel seen. He doesn't feel respected. He doesn't have a lot of self-confidence. And how he overcomes that to reconnect with his joy, his black boy joy, and how a dream or a nightmare, followed up by another dream, sets him on this path to kind of find out who he is and why he's here. The children who have heard it so far, because I've started like a book tour, have really, really blessed me. They've gotten it. They love it. They ask questions. They come alive. When I tell them I'm thinking of doing a part 2 in which, Djembe and his brother talk to each other about the bullying, they're like, yes. And some of them say you should do, and he should have a pet, and you should make him do so and so. So they're running with it. Telling our stories, sorry, is very important. Telling stories that validate our young children is also important. I'm so happy that we're living in a world where black and brown children in particular are getting to see themselves more in books, in magazines, in stories as lead characters, not as a sidekick. That these stories are being told. It's so important. And so I'm really, really proud and grateful that I have a book that has as its lead character a little black boy who takes this journey, whose story is being told, whose identity is being validated. And I'm grateful for the response of the children. And I'm really excited about where it will go. And because Djembe is insistent, I keep getting these additional ideas. So now, as I speak to you, Djembe is available in ebook on Amazon. It's available in paperback on lulu.com. Djembe t-shirts are available on spring.com. And in Jamaica, the hard copy is available currently at Kozy Korner, Books and More, and Bookophilia. And like I said, I've started a book tour. So I've read at 2 schools so far. I'm reading at a community center on World Day of the Boy Child, May 16th, which I'm really excited about. And I'm asking them to make it a boys only audience. I'll go back and do a mixed reading as well. And another school in Manchester on Wednesday. And I'm hoping to extend and expand that. Because, what's the point of writing a children's book if children don't hear it and see it and experience it? And so Djembe keeps nudging me with these additional ideas, that might morph into an animated take on the book, a voice track. I also want to do an audiobook of it as well. So I'm going to encourage anybody who's writing, any creatives watching, follow your ideas. We have to find time to pour into our inspiration. So I have a saying and a meme that we may or may not include in this episode that says, what we water grows. What are you watering in your life? And I ask myself that question. So most of us, I think, were raised on the thing that you go to school for X amount of years, then you get a decent job, but that means you're going to work for somebody. I don't remember ever being told that as I was growing up and learning and going, that I could own something, that I could create, that I could be a creative and I could make money from that, or I could pursue my passion. I think it's important that we have those conversations with girls, but also with boys about ideating and dreaming and playing and allowing their inner child to play and not feeling that they have to be the hunter-gatherer and the fighter and the aggressor and in Jamaica, say bull bucker and duppy conqueror, that we celebrate that vulnerability, sensitivity, grace, that sense of humor, that we nurture boys so they can become nurturers. I constantly ask, if we are bullying and beating, verbally and physically abusing these boys, exposing them to negative behavior, negative thoughts, to misogyny, to rape culture, when and how are they going to grow into these wonderful men that we want in society? Where are they learning that? Who's raising those boys? So we have to do better. I keep saying we have to raise healthier, more functional men. And it starts with our boys, how we treat them, what we say to them, what we make them believe is possible about themselves, but also the lens through which they see the world. When we see bullying, when we see or hear bullying, or we hear, boys picking on girls or boys being picked on, do we intervene? I keep saying that in some schools, and we should have classes on kindness, on respect. We should talk about and deconstruct those as concepts so that children, boys and girls, begin to learn this. So I'm celebrating the fact that I've entered the ranks of children's book writer. I'm celebrating the fact that the children so far have really blessed me by their response. And I'm also celebrating my vision to get this book, this story out into the world and to follow it up with some other ones. Excited about the t-shirts. Yeah, it's really, really a beautiful journey. I've never written a children's book. I never thought I would. And that's the other thing. Don't doubt anything is possible. So Reverend Jerry Hobby gave me this prompt for a meeting that now has become an actual book with a second edition. So the first one I rushed and put that's the first edition that I'm not doing any more of. And this is the second edition that now exists in paperback and ebook and now as a t-shirt as well. And this is just from a prompt for a committee. Anything is possible. So we as adults need to believe that for ourselves. And I'm hoping we're passing that on to our children as well. So guess what? Fabian Thomas, writer, poet, but also now children's books writer. So you can follow me, of course, if you're watching this, hopefully on my YouTube channel, Fabian Seh. But I'm also on IG at i.am.Fabian_writer_poet. And my Facebook page is Fabian M. Thomas, I Write. Take a look, take a peek, spread the word, buy a copy, share it with somebody. I'm also celebrating, and I hope you watched the episode where me and my colleagues from Tribes and Kofa talked about our baby that we birthed together called Tribal Elements. So yeah, I have my fingers and two pies, 2 books out right now. And I'm excited. I'm really excited because guess what? Writers write. Sometimes we say, I so and so and so, but we're not actually doing it for whatever reason, out of fear, whatever. So writers, write these stories, tell these stories. Boys, big up on yourself, sending you love and light. Those of us who have access to boys, who are parents of boys, please love them and hug them up and shower them with love and blessings and praise them up and talk them up and remind them that they are kings. That's one of the things in the book where Djembe realizes that he's a king. You know, and there's an image where he's looking in the mirror and he sees himself and the crown is just above his head. So I'm celebrating the princedom and the kingliness of all boys and men. And just reminding us that being a king doesn't mean being a bully. It doesn't mean power. It's about honoring and respecting yourself, but also honoring and respecting others, recognizing your value, but also valuing others. What does it mean to lead and love and be led? So kings, young and old, big up on yourself. As we celebrate and acknowledge World Day of the Boy Child. And I celebrate and acknowledge the birth of my child, Djembe, in the world. Thank you for joining in. Peace, love, light, and blessings. And we'll put out some information somewhere so you can remember it and see it where Djembe is available. Enough love, enough light. Tell a boy that he's a king. Peace and love.